Hello, I'm afraid this will be the last video I make for a while because, of course, due to the restrictions on movement resulting from the coronavirus outbreak, I am stuck at home. But here is some footage which I shot a few weeks ago, just before the movement restrictions came in. So I hope you enjoy this, but I will be getting back to the foreshore just as soon as life returns to normal. Good morning, ready for another lark, another low tide, so we'll see what this brings. Ready to hunt. We're with company today, so I'll introduce the mother and daughter team of Kate and Fleur, who are Kit and Caboodlers. Thank you. Hello, here we are in London, and this is Fleur and Kate, and together they are Kit and Caboodlers. So you have your own channel, and it's called Kit and Caboodlers, isn't it? Great. So do encourage you to subscribe to them. Have you been other places as well as the Thames?
We've been to a few places, haven't we? The Portsmouth, there's like we've been mudlarking there. We've been mudlarking with Tom Burley in Yorkshire.
Oh yes, I've got to watch that video. I think that's one of your latest ones.
It is, yeah.
So how did you get into the whole mudlarking experience then?
We've always sort of, we didn't know what it was called when I was little. It started like with fossils, and then we discovered a bottle dump when I was tiny. So we used to go there a lot, but now that one's gone. And I think
we just like
we had a friend that lives here, and he moved here and has a dog, so he told us about mudlarking. I guess that's how it started. And then
Okay, that's really good. Yeah, I like your fish basket.
Yes,
is that where you put all your finds?
I do, yes.
That's great. Well, there's two of you and one of me, so I'm expecting you to find twice as much as I do.
This place, I'm not very good. Last time I came here, I didn't find anything. So,
really? Okay.
I found some
yes, you found good things.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, that's encouraging. I mean, there's a bit. We'll go down to that end first because there you can find little bits of Roman pottery and garnets as well. There's a place where, so hopefully I'll be able to relocate that. And then we'll see what turns up there. But is there anything you particularly want? Is on your hit list to
A bit of Roman pottery would be nice. Or
bit of Roman?
I quite like lead seals.
Oh yes, okay, cloth seal or something. Right. Well, let's hope we find something good. I'm after a trader's token because in 12 years of mudlarking I haven't found a single one, and everyone else seems to find loads. Just nestling there in the rocks is a bit of Surrey whiteware. So 30 seconds on the foreshore, and we've got a bit of medieval pottery. It's a typical rim from a cooking pot, and this would date from about 1350 to 1500. A little back stamp off a Victorian piece. I can't quite read it, so I'll have to have a look at home. Looks like maybe homeware or home something. It's actually on the rim of what looks like willow pattern plate. Just down here at my feet, we have spotted a little bit of colour-coated Roman pottery. Not glazed, but just a matte slip coating, and obviously throwing lines, so probably from beaker, I would guess. It doesn't look very thick. Well, I saw the fabric was medieval, but turned it over and it's got a beautiful copper glaze there on it. Part of the base of a medieval pot, but a lovely speckled copper glaze. This glazing does carry on into the post-medieval period, but not with the medieval fabric with inclusions as it is there. Just here, a tiny bit of German salt glazed stoneware. It'll be part of the medallion from a Bartman jug. Too small probably to identify, but nice find anyway, 16th or 17th century. What looks like a handle there buried in the mud, so I'll just excavate this one. Here we have the beard from a Bartman, so just below the face at the neck, which were moulded onto these jugs. Could be 16th century, 17th century, but a nice find. Just noticed this unassuming bit of pottery here, but it's very interesting in that it is so this is white salt glazed stoneware that's been dipped in an iron-rich solution or slip. So you get a wider band on the outside and a narrow band on the inside. But this would be from a cup or a mug, and a mid-18th century, so sort of about 1730 to 1760, something like that. So it's nice to find a bit of Staffordshire white glazed stoneware.
That's really nice. That is lovely.
Despite my old eyesight and my glasses, I picked up a tiny bead, which might be glass, but it's interesting. See, so small compared with my finger, or maybe I've just got fat fingers.
Another tiny garnet.
You wanted to make a garnet ring, didn't you?
I did.
Oh really? Wow. Let's find a nice big one then.
Yeah, so far I'm thinking.
Now we have progressed from garnets to pins. So trying to pick up enough pins to recreate a whole Tudor costume. A little bit of Staffordshire scratch blue. So this is white salt glazed stoneware with scratched decoration obviously and blue cobalt wash, often in a floral semi-flower pattern. Some people say it was competing with Westabout stoneware imports, but this would date from about 1740 to 1785. Quite a lot of 18th century pottery in this spot for some reason, but this is a lovely hand decorated bit of Chinese export porcelain. So vast quantities were coming into Europe through Holland, East India Company and the British equivalent, and it's very hard porcelain, hard paste porcelain with a bluish tinge, and it was one that the British porcelain factories were trying to imitate. So a lot of the early 18th century, so the early production in the late 18th century would be imitating Chinese porcelain like this. Another bit of porcelain that's obviously been in a fire, because it's got some really burnt on deposits, whether that was in the kiln and it's a oyster or after manufacture. A tile, but what is on the other side? Nothing. Okay, that's a flop. 3 more pieces of porcelain, some nice decoration on that one, and maybe a mark on that one, or it might be just decoration. I'll do some research when I get home. Maybe today is porcelain day, because here's another nice piece with some lovely decoration on it. Here's another bit of porcelain. Another bit of Chinese export porcelain, hand painted with cobalt glaze, 18th century again. So that must be my 4th or even 5th bit. Just up from over lead object, which may or may not be a cloth seal. I'll have to wash it off. It's just ingrained with crud, but it is definitely lead, and it looks like the right shape to be part of a cloth seal. So we'll have a wash later and see if we can pick out any detail on it. Just down here at the water's edge, is a little bit of very old clay. You can see it's got shell inclusions. So I think it's probably sandy shellyware, which would be about 1050 to 1200, so quite early medieval for London. Just here, another little bit of Roman pottery, very thin, colour coated, with just a little hint of rouletted decoration on it. So nice to get back to Roman London. Coin or token? Anyway, it's got a cross on it, like very much like a medieval coin. So let's just see if we can get an ID. Kate has found two little lead seals, and I've just found this round object made of lead which has been folded in half, so possibly a token or a seal. We'll have a look when we get home and gently unfold it and see if there's any detail on it. Now this sizable chunk is part of a Roman roof tile, so some were red or pinkish and some were yellowish, and this is one of those. It has got bits of grog in it, old bits of pottery. So yeah, so that's another bit of Roman London. Two for the price of one here. So a little bit of white. We've got a bit of white salt glazed stoneware with scratch blue decoration, so mid 18th century. Again, a little floral motif, the edge of there, and a tiny bit of blue and white, probably somewhere near the rim of a tea bowl, I would expect. Now that one I just picked up, and that's definitely Roman greyware, coarse pottery, but you can see clearly the incised crosshatch decoration on this piece. That's just sand, it's not actually a sandy fabric. So that's a nice little bit of Roman London to pull out. A nice little bit of Roman London to pull out of the Thames foreshore today. Another disc I just picked up, it's covered in crud. It might be a button, but I'm hoping it might be a coin or even a seal of some sort, but it will need a lot of cleaning off when I get home, so we'll check it out later. Midlands purple, so hard stoneware like fabric, and black treacly glaze inside, sometimes called butter potware, from where they used to send butter from Staffordshire and the Midlands down to London. So that will be anything from the 16th century up to the early 18th, 1720, thereabouts. Here's a little bit of medieval pot. Sorry whiteware, I guess, from 1350 to 1500. It seems a lot of marking on it. Now it's not decoration, it's probably near the base, and they would have wiped it just to thin off the clay on the base part of it, I think, just to clean up the appearance. Yes, it is. That's a bit of a Samian-ware base from a little cup or bowl, so the typical slip, no mark or decoration, but still 1st or 2nd century AD, bit of Roman London. so very happy to find that. I just picked up this and I realise it's a large chunky bit of medieval handle, but it's slightly different. It's Hertfordshire grey ware, so it's got fold impressions in pairs which would have gone down the handle. Another bit of medieval, that's the rim of a cooking pot in Surrey whiteware, chock full of inclusions. So it's known also as coarse borderware from the Surrey Hampshire borders, but they also made at Cheam and Kingston and Southwark, and that will be about 1350 to 1500, that piece there. I just prized this from between a pair of rocks, and it's Staffordshire. I'm not sure if it's stoneware or earthenware, but it's got engine turned decoration, so it's 1760s or 1780s, that sort of date. Probably from a teapot, I would think, but it's quite a nice example of its type. There's another little bit, looks like stoneware. Yeah, that's just a decorative frieze from a bit of salt glazed stoneware. So again, from a Jartman style jug with a little floral decoration. I'll have to check it out. It might be the earlier stuff from Cologne, which would be early 16th century. But that might not be the case. It might just be the normal Bartman 17th, 16th onwards. A little bit of white salt glazed stoneware from Staffordshire. You can just see that orange peel type surface which is distinctive of the salt glaze. It comes pitting of throwing salt into the kiln at the end of the firing process. Probably the base of a tea bowl and mid 18th century. Good morning. Time for a wash up on our finds that we found when we went out with kit and caboodlers. So starting in chronological order, we have our little bit of Samian ware, and I was pleased to find, upon washing it, at the bottom of a cup or a dish, that it's just got the edge of a name stamp there with one tiny part of one letter at the end, which is probably an F for fake it or he made it. So that would have been, the beginning of the stamp would have been the potter's name, but sadly that wasn't with the piece that we found, but still nice. Some Roman greyware. Hopefully you can see that's got cross hatching on it as a typical Roman decoration. An unglazed piece of greyware. So even the humble kitchen pottery and cooking pots would have often had cross hatching on them. We also found a piece of large Roman tile. So Roman tile in London comes in two colours, normally red, tegulae and imbrex, which are the two parts of the roof tile. So one is flat with edges like that, and the other is curved to fit over two edges. And this is part of the tegula, I think. So that would be the flat bit with two projections at the edges. And this is a yellowish fabric which was used in later Roman London, so that's a nice find. For the medieval period, apart from a few odd bits of Surrey whiteware, we did find this nice jug handle, which is South Hertfordshire greyware. So that's going to be 1150 to 1250. It's that sort of thing. So you can see that they've decorated the handle with thumbing marks, and there's another two underneath, and there'll be a whole row of thumbing imprints down there. Sometimes they'd stick a little sharp point into them, so there'd be a hole in the middle of each thumb. So that contrasts with the Surrey whiteware, which is a bit later, which is normally slashed and stabbed there. But this would have been quite a large vessel. It's a good chunk of greyware there. Plenty of post-medieval. So we had a nice little bit of Bartman jug, or early jug, with a floral or leafy frieze going around it. This will be a bit earlier, so it's probably 16th century for that. And there's a picture here of a type of jug that it would come from. Homegrown stoneware. So we've got white salt glazed stoneware dipped into an iron rich solution or slip, and there's always on the outside a bit of a thicker rim on it than the inside. It looks very modern when it's lying on the foreshore, but it is actually mid 18th century for this type of material. Also stoneware, a bit of scratch blue, so Staffordshire scratch blue with some cobalt decoration, probably sort of flower motif, something like that. This also mid 18th century, 1740 to 1780, that sort of thing. And also from Staffordshire, a little bit of engine turned, probably a teapot, but that's nice pattern there. Hopefully you can see that pattern on that piece. So this is stoneware, coloured red stoneware. This would be after 1760, so 1760 through to the nearly the end of the century, often in tea wares, but a very decorative type of motif on pottery there. Porcelain, so we have typical Chinese export porcelain, which will be 18th century, hand painted decoration on that, which is very pleasing. This was an interesting find. So this is soft paste porcelain, but it's been in a fire. I'm not sure whether that would be in the kiln. Probably not, probably just a fire after it's been made, so there's no way really of identifying it. It has got a bit of cobalt decoration and a bit of moulding, on it too, but I have no idea what it comes from. Metal finds. Well, I did carefully unbend the cloth seal, and it is a complete 4-part cloth seal, and it's got on it Exon, which is the Latin abbreviation for the town of Exeter. So it's going to be 17th or 18th century, I expect. So when they shipped, probably by river and then by sea, cloth from parts of the UK or from the continent, they put a seal on it which identified the source and maybe what it was, and a date sometimes. I did find a lovely cloth seal with the date 1666 on it once. And then these would be folded in half, so 2 would be on one side of the bolt of fabric and 2 on the other side. And where that ring is, the corresponding bit of metal is stuck to the back of the last one there. And then you could pay your customs duty on your cloth imports and exports there. So it's nice to find the 4 parts together of that cloth seal. My other metal finds were very disappointing. So the thing I found that was bent in half, when I unbent it, there was nothing on it, as opposed to the lovely 15th century ledge token that Kate found. And then my other little thin brass or copper object was just probably from a sail, you know, like a ring to make a hole there. So nothing very exciting in that, sadly. What other finds have we got? Well, this is an interesting piece of pottery. You can see it's got on the surface there little chips, and these are chips of flint, and it's called encrusted ware, and it's probably made in the borderware region in the 17th century. And they're little chips of flint that were added as decoration, and they were quite often found on mugs, and I suppose it provides a rather rough non-slip surface if you're drinking your ale from that. Later, a few Georgian or Victorian finds. Pity there wasn't more of this. From the shape, it's not like a ginger beer bottle, but it's probably a flask, a drinking flask. I'll see if I can show a photo of a typical one. And there were lots of decorated ones of figures and other people. And then the little bit of willow pattern rim with the mark Stone China. There were lots of manufacturers that marked Stone China, and so I haven't been able to track down an exact match or factory for that. But it was fun to go out, and do join us again on our next trip. If you're interested in pottery, then do check out my book. I've written a pottery identification guide which you can buy on eBay for a mere £2.99. Okay, see you soon. Thank you. Bye.